that's next week, next month. And maybe y'all been used up. Sister Anderson, you start our reading this morning. Amen. Of course, you can tell by your title, we're going to talk about no-name heroes today. Now, a hero, what is a hero? What is somebody that has done an exceptional deed? You know, we talk about military heroes. They've been courageous in battle. You know, they may have risked their own life to save their companions, their brothers in arms. You know, that's typically what you call a hero. But now, there's other types of heroes. The Bible lists many heroes. You know, there was Abraham was a hero, Moses, uh, Samson, Gideon. You know, it goes on and on. But it says no-name heroes. Now, who are those people we want to be asked? Well, in the book here, it says that, remember Rahab? You know, she risked her life to let to save the messenger of God, and in turn, her and her family were saved when Jericho was taken. What about Ruth? Go ahead. You do something. It's like what you're saying. You see a child running to the road. You don't know that child, but you risk your life to try to save that child without thinking. You know, that's a hero. Someone that you can understand people that save lives, like paramedics, police officers, firemen. You know, they rush into a burning building to risk their life to save somebody that's in the house. But we're talking about today, I think, people that you don't think about being heroes. And of course, it says right there, they were stoned, they were sawn asunder, were tempted, slain with a sword, wandered about in sheepskin and goatskin. You know, it reminds me, that's in a time where Christianity was just getting started. You know, the Romans tried to wipe out Christianity. They gathered up the Christians. They put them in the Colosseum to be with wild animals. You know, the torture to try to wipe them out. And the only place they had to hide was in the catacombs, in the caves. To live like a wild animal. To dress in animal skins. To try to salvage food wherever you possibly could. You know, it would have been real easy to walk outside and say, no more. And went into the population and probably been better off. But they chose not to do that. They chose to give everything they had, including their life. What did Jesus do for us? He gave everything he had, including his life, for us. Yes. Book says instead of being like the world, we are to be like Jesus. To live our lives daily like Jesus. You know, I'm going to put myself in this category. Why aren't we out on the side of the road, on the street corners, proclaiming Jesus to the world? What? For fear that somebody will laugh at us? For fear of, say, be like the early Christians? Are we willing to risk ridicule to stand up for Jesus? That's right. Now just think back for a minute. You were probably raised by heroes. Mom and Dad. Because they sacrificed. Because I'm saying in the general time of when I was born, you know, those people worked and sacrificed probably for 20 years that you could have a better start in life. Good God-fearing parents working to get you far. That's my hero. That's where I think first about heroes. But the people, you know, there are people named in the Bible. It says, all right, just say right here, for instance, in Kings 2 and 5, here's an unnamed hero, a young servant girl. You know, Israel was put into bondage. Syrian army come and took Israel, captured them, wholesale moved them. And here's a little girl, no parents, no godly parents. No brothers, no sisters, no friends. She's in a foreign land, surrounded by foreign customs, among people who worshiped idols and not the true God. Well, how did she respond to this? Her new owners, or her new adults in her life, one of them came down with leprosy. What did she do? This girl remained faithful to God. She knew nothing about God before she was tucked into the bondage. She told her mistress that there was a prophet of God in her homeland that would pray for his healing. She testified to God's power of right in an adulterous home. She was not ashamed. And through her belief, Naaman was healed of his leprosy. She's a hero. We still don't know her name, but she was a hero. And you've heard this story time and time again about the Good Samaritan. You know, first the Levite saw him pass by on the other side. Then the priest, he saw him. He moved over on the other side of the road and went by. A Samaritan, who was an enemy of the Israelites, he saw the man, had compassion for that man, bound up his wounds, took him to a place to where he could get some care, paid for his care. We still don't know his name. But he was a hero. Otherwise, that man would have laid there and died because nobody else would have went to his aid. Another time, remember when Jesus went into the temple? You know, he was sitting there watching people come by. Of course, the rich, you know, they were reaching into their purse and dumping a handful of money in the box. Going on and on. But here come a little lady by there. She dumped everything out of her little purse into that box. Her 2 little mites, which is about 4 cents. But yet, that's all she had. She gave it all to God. She didn't give her 10%. She gave 100% of what she had. Why? Because she had faith. And Jesus, he saw it, just like Jesus sees us. Yes, brother. Exactly. Just like you go through your everyday routine. You do your pray. You know, things. Your day may not go good. Nobody's there to see how you react. Well, if you've got God in your heart, you're going to react the right way. And God's going to see that and write it down. Nobody else may see it, but God sees it. You don't have an audience there to see you drop that hammer down on the head of that finger. Say, thank you, Lord, go on about your business.
The girls have this veg program, and in the movie this kid said, oh, there's a policeman. He's supposed to be right and stop at the factory. Well, in the video, we're talking about the hope of eternal life. Without the promise of that, there's no reason for this man to stand up and do the right thing and be good. If this is all there is and there's nothing else, why would he have, what reason would he have to be brave and decent and right? And he didn't. That was what it was showing. Without the hope of eternal life, there is nothing left. What's the point? That the guy didn't have any reason to be brave.
But I think you can go back to character here. You know, there's the cookie jar sitting on the table, and children see it. And some of them, knowing that it's not supposed to be in that cookie jar, pass by. Others will climb up there and get an armload. Why? Character. You know, some of us have it. Some of us learn to have it. And there may not be nobody around that would know you got that cookie out of that jar. But God knows if you've been told to stay out of that cookie jar, you're supposed to stay out of the cookie jar. That's hard to do too when them cookies smell good. But you can go through your whole life and you remember back. And you can see instances to where the people are not named. And are never known for what they do. But God knows who those people are. He's got that wrote down in his book. Is our names going to be wrote down there? Ask yourself. I ask myself that all the time. And the more you think about that, the better you try to do, the better you try to be. Go back to this little lady. She had a desire to give. And when she gave everything she had, she sacrificed. Are we willing to do that? No, I got a question. How many of you know who our missionary to Cuba is? I can't think of his name either. But to me, he's a hero. But, you know, unless you got it wrote down somewhere, chances are you won't remember. But he's a hero because he's told of his experience in Cuba. You know, he lives, any moment he could be put in prison. And we might not ever know about it. Daily, he has to live that way. If you weren't here, their church, at that time he was here, was an alleyway between two buildings. When it comes church time, the parishioners came carrying the church. They came carrying the pews, the seats, whatever they needed. They had their little church right there. When it come time to leave, they carried everything back with them to wherever they had it stored. Well, are we willing to do that? Those people are heroes. They've got an army right all the way around them, spies, tattletales, but yet here they come, seeking God. Those are heroes.
And make this work, what's the point? I didn't think God was capable of healing you. What was it to be the point after you did?
Because the very first verse we read, they went through all this, not accepting deliverance, but that they might obtain a better resurrection. See, this is before Jesus came on them. They didn't even know about Jesus. But they knew enough about God that they were willing to endure this. How would you like to be skinned alive and not forsake your God? That, to me, is faith. one of us can say the same thing. But every one of us, do we do what we talk? Can we walk the walk? Sure. Go ahead, sis.
There was something else in here I marked that I love. It says, true faith does not look at God through the circumstance, but looks at the circumstance through God. No matter what the situation, your witness is going to be how you react to that situation.
That's right.
Whether you trust in God to come through or you're willing to be. That's another thing about the word again, another definition. You love God. God puts the love in you for other people. You have that love and compassion for somebody else. You're willing to do for that person. You're willing to sacrifice for that person, whatever it takes. Without that love, you're not willing to make that sacrifice.
Right.
You're not willing to jump out in the road and save that person.
It goes
You're
right.
not willing to give up the people.
It goes right back to what Brother Chris was saying. Do we get tied down with our daily grind that we don't distraction? That's a good word. But do we get tied up so we get so involved with what we're doing that we don't look at the big picture? Are we like the horse with the blinders on, where you just got what's in front of you, not what's out to the side?
Sometimes, and I do this a lot, I'll react to a situation without thinking about seeing it through God. I just see it from my perspective, and I'm like, oh no, and then wait a minute, stop. You know, I have to stop myself and say, what would God say? What would God? How would God look at this situation? It's not as scary and panicky and all that as I thought.
You just want to pull your head in your shell and not look at the world. And we've all been in that predicament, that we just want to draw back and cover our head up and say, I don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to be involved in what's going on. We can't be that way, though. That's a good. I don't want to suffer. I'm comfortable with what I've got and where I'm at. I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk what I've got for something that beyond my ability to take care of.
And it's like you said, it's perspective. When the first time I had a car problem and had to go to preschool and get a ride with the neighbor, I had to walk through school, and I thought, man, I hate this. That was that attitude, that perspective. When I got the right perspective, it was thank you, God, that I can get some exercise, because I get to walk down to the school. Well, thank you, God, that I have to ride with the neighbor lady, so I get to witness to her. It went from, oh man, to thank you, God.
You know, and you're right. Every time something happens to us, it actually happens for a reason. If nothing else, it's just to slow us down, and so we can take time to say, well, I was in too big a hurry. I tried to cut corners, you know, and God's going peck, peck, peck. Hey, you wanted to say, Brother Jason, you had something? Oh, thought maybe he was trying to get my attention. I was shocked you haven't said anything all morning. Here's a story about Elisha. You remember he was traveling, doing the work of the Lord. He needed a place to stay. This Shunammite woman took him in. She didn't have a name. She took him in. They built a little room on the side of their room. They fed him. He had a place to stay while he went about his job. She didn't ask nothing in return. But during that time that she stayed with him, don't you know that she was getting a blessing? Because I'm sure they probably talked. He probably encouraged her. He was a minister.
I can imagine, imagine that somebody's an evangelist going around preaching, and you're gonna make an accommodation. And I thought about that too, when I read that, I thought, oh man,
And he wondered what he could do for this woman. Yes.
and you know what?
She said nothing.
Nope, I'm good.
She's good. But I guess it's the same way in our families, You want your prodigy, your name to carry on. A child, the children, And he gave her that gift. And that child grew up to be a young man. And one day he died. And what's the first thing she did? She sent for Elijah. She had faith. I'm glad you said that because I forgot that part. For prosperity. And you're right. Things could be falling apart at home, but you need to say, all's well, because what we live in is temporal. We're just here for a short period of time.
This reminds me again, Reggie told me one time, and fits this lesson too. That's what Jesus was trying to say. When he started around healing people and doing that, it wasn't, hey, look at me, I'm doing this. He was saying, look what you can do with God fully in you and through you.
When God's in control.
God in the flesh. That's the word, God in the flesh. God through me. This is what he's saying. You can do this. You can trust God, and you can have faith in God, and you can want this to happen, and this will happen.
And it can happen right now, in this present time. God is here. He can take care of this situation. And you've walked into churches that way. And you want to shout, wake up, people. Just like this woman here. If you have any faith at all, first thing you do is you run to God. You run to God's house. You run to God's men. And you run to God's people. In other words, you want to get all God that you can get. Where's that at? That's being in the presence of a godly group of people. Like-minded people who will pray for you, who will pray for your problems. Besides, any problem you got, it's a temporal thing anyway. Because God may call you home this afternoon. Oh, boo-hoo.
Get someone to uplift you. Go to someone that's got some God in them that's going to encourage you and say, hey, this is just for a moment.
You got that right.
This lady also reminded me of another perspective. I've got
It's a great lesson.
If it wasn't a matter of God would have raised up. For the many moms, God will give you all the love that you had in that child from, no matter how long or short of time you had that child, you had that love. And that you get to say, thank you, God, for that love. Not, oh, I'm wallowing in despair. But you get to say, thank you for that love.
That's right. I mean, we know our children get on our nerves, but they're still God's little children. They're little angels. We have to bear that in mind sometimes. I know I've been there, so I know how it feels like. And you're right. When they greet it, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with thy child? It is well. That's faith. You know, I've seen some of the tornado victims on TV. They interviewed them, and she said, yeah, I said, we've lost everything we've got. But we're all healthy, and we still got God. You know, that's a testimony. You know, when you don't have anything, you had everything yesterday, but you don't have anything today. But you still got God.
That's where I get a bonus when you go outside in the morning, feel the breeze, see the green grass through the trees, and breathe, and just be. Thank you, God, that I'm just standing here in this spot right now, being alive, knowing you.
I'm going to pick on Brother Jason. When he was building his house, you know, he built a 2-story. He built a big porch on one end. He said, and I said, this is perfect. You sit here, and you're in the presence of God. You know, you sit there, watch everything evolves around you. But you can sit there. You're away from everything, but you're with God. Yes, Jason. And we've got to remember that, folks. During the week, the work week, you know, when things get down, we have to remember stuff like that. Remember that good counseling. Remember your good friends. It don't take no effort to pick up the phone and call somebody. Say, hey, I got something I just want to unload on you. because I know you're a good, godly person and you're not going to unload back on me. Well, folks, that's what we're talking about. Yes, sister. Right. So there it is. We got heroes all around us. We just need to be aware of them. Thank you.
Give a flower right now when they can enjoy it.
That's right.